marea șansă și mulțumesc Federației Internaționale de Basket și Federației Române de Basket, care au un program comun, să fac un master în management și leadership la Northumbria University. Acolo l-am cunoscut pe Guy și sunt absolut, sunt exact ca și un copil în cofetărie, când văd aceste resurse date unui sportiv și aceste resurse date unui student. TASS, Talented Athlete Scholarship Scheme, organizează un proiect cu acest grup de sportivi de înaltă performanță, TASS, de mentoring și de posibilitatea de a influența alți sportivi. Dar nu se limitează numai la atâta. Guy, it's a great honor to have you here, and please tell us about you and what you do with TASS. It's a story. It's a big story. I know we don't have that much time because it's all over, but please enlighten us.
I'll try and keep it as simple as possible, but some of you may know the history of sport within the UK, but 21 years ago, to about the day, we failed miserably in Atlanta. We got one gold medal. 96, we got one gold medal. And the government said, no more. We're not going to do this anymore. We're going to do it professionally. So we invested a significant amount of government funding in developing what we would call a professional sports system for the development of Olympians. It basically started an arms race, and there is an arms race out there at the moment with regards to development of athletes.
From where you get that money?
National Lottery.
Private source, yeah?
Yeah. Still controlled by the government, but it's a national lottery system. But at the same time, there was a number of senior people within the government that decided that in professionalizing the system, you had to look after your athletes. You had a duty of care for your athletes. That a sporting career is just a fleeting part of an athlete's life. They are going to spend more time as an individual being a non-athlete than an athlete. Therefore, they need a purpose in life. They need to develop as an individual to give more back from when they finish being an athlete. They become a benefit to the economy of the country rather than a drain on the economy. Because if they concentrate on for 10, 15 years and they become, they get to go to the Olympics and come 8th, that's great. I would have loved to have gone to the Olympics and come 8th. But if that's all they can do when they come to retire, what are they going to do for the next 50 years? The simple question that was asked in the UK was, what would we rather have? Somebody who went to the Olympic and came 8th, or somebody that trained to be a doctor and saved thousands of lives over a work period of 40, 50 years? And actually the answer we came up with, actually we want both. And when we started to investigate on how we would develop these athletes, we came across some fundamental questions that everybody in sport assumed a number of things. They assumed the primacy of sport. They assume that it's sport. Everybody understands sport and everybody will choose sport. And actually it's incorrect. What we found was that at the age of 14, 15, 16, when an athlete was given an opportunity and a coach came along and said, you're really good, we think you can get to the Olympics, we want you to concentrate on your sport, the majority of them actually didn't choose that route because their main influencer at that time are their parents. And their parents understand far more than we give them in sport. We give them, we understand them to have. They go, no, you're not going to make a living being a pole vaulter. You need to get an education. So while sport assumed, of course, everybody will choose sport, what we actually found was they didn't. They chose education. So the loss of talent from the talent system was huge. Can any sport survive where its actually main transition point is driving people out of their sport. So we developed the system TASS, Talent Athlete Scholarship Scheme, which allowed them to do both education and sport. One of the first things we found was everybody assumes you're a sports person, you want to study sport. You want to be a sports coach, you want to be a sports manager, you want to go and work for a sports club. It is totally and utterly incorrect. When we started TASS, 80 to 90% of the athletes that we supported were doing sport as a qualification, whether that be a degree, lower level high school work. Now we have a system in place where that has dropped below 35%. Sport athletes are like any other cross-section of the community. They want to be doctors, they want to be accountants, they want to be artists, they want to be musicians. If you put them into a system that actually forces them to do something that they don't want to do, when they come to retire, they will not add benefit to your country. They will become a drain on their country. And sport is very good at saying, we got them to the Olympics, we've done our job. Business, can you give them a job now? It's your job now, we'll pass them on. Actually, who has a duty of care of those athletes? Whose responsibility is it to ensure those athletes have a future? If sport is removing them out of a normal system, if they weren't doing sport, they'd go through high school, they'd go to university. If sport is removing them out of that system, it is sport's responsibility to address that. You have a duty of care for it. And the money that we invest within TASS is actually sport money. And it's always the first conversation we have with the sport when we sit down and say, we want to support 30 of your athletes. And the first question we get is, when can we have the money? And we go, you get nothing. Because it's not about you as a sport, it's about developing the athletes. The funding goes to developing the athletes in their education program. Because we created a talent system that was education-based. If a sport does not buy into a system that allows an athlete to get an education as well as develop as a high performer, they do not receive funding for their talent program. So we actually took a different step in understanding and creating a process that was going to produce world-class athletes. Better educated athletes are better performers, and there are more value to the country after they've finished being an athlete than those that are purely being forced to take a sporting route.
So you told me yesterday that 2% of athletes, right? I'll let you say it.
The latest research is that across all sports, if you take all sports, from football in the UK, rugby league in Austria, the downhill skiers, to Olympic sports, only 2% of athletes will earn enough money competing as an athlete to retire.
So the rest of us have to reorient.
Have to work.
Talented Athlete Lifestyle Support e un program pe care TASS l-a promovat în acest proiect alături de Federația Internațională de Basket. Listen to you, Guy, talking about this program. You told me a great thing. It's not about sending people somewhere or helping people. It's about learning. And it's about learning all the time.
Yeah, taking the business analogy that's been used a lot, if you're talking that sport is a business, their assets are their athletes. Therefore, if you are a federation, think about what is the last conversation that you have with an athlete. Very few athletes actually have the ability or to actually decide when they're going to retire. Majority of the athletes, the last conversation the federation will have with them is, you're not good enough, is a negative engagement with them. You have to retire. You're not going to be continuing this program. If during the time as being an athlete, the federation has looked after that athlete, engaged with them, trained them, got them ready for their transition, that when they actually go, is that they remain an asset for that sport. They don't leave with negativity. They don't go and actually go and see Adecco, which is a very good program, but Adecco can only work with the tools that they're given. If an athlete walks through their door and goes, I've got no education, I've got no skills apart from being able to run fast, unfortunately, I don't want to be derogatory to athletes, they'll end up stacking shelves in a supermarket. Or they will become a show pony for a company, if you know what the English term is there, until a better show pony comes along. It's not sustainable. In trying to keep the athlete learning and engaging with the athlete, so in the transition, and they can walk into a business and go, I've been to the Olympics, I've got a degree, I've got these skills, far easier job for Adecco to find them work than trying to work with a blank canvas because there's nothing there. So it's about working with the athletes to keep them learning and learning in a way that they want to engage with. Teaching them to be, giving them federation coaching qualifications when they actually want to be an accountant isn't going to help. It's getting the learning right. It's not simply saying, sit in this classroom and I'm going to talk to you. It's actually, what do you want to do as an athlete? These people are business people. They look at anybody in front of them with a business head on. Am I going to employ someone that's got a PhD, a master's, experience, may have been a good artist or been involved in voluntary work, or am I going to employ an athlete that went to the Olympics but has no qualifications? In business, they'll make the business decision. We, as sport, have to make it simple for business. Well, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to pick that athlete because they've been to the Olympics, they've got a degree in an area that they want to work. So it's about the constant learning. Just because you're good at sport doesn't mean you should stop learning. And learning doesn't just mean learning how to do your sport. It's about life skills. It's about your education, your future.